Welcome back, everyone. Today's deep dive is going to be really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this concept called right view in Buddhist philosophy.
Right view.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at it through this text called The Wings to Awakening.
Okay.
And, I think most of our listeners probably know this already, but, the Four Noble Truths are like the foundation
Yeah.
of Buddhist teachings,
Yeah.
right? And right view is kind of like, super tied in with those.
Right.
But here's where things get kind of like a little paradoxical.
Okay.
Right view is like a perspective or a way of looking at the world, but it kind of aims to detach from all perspectives,
Oh, wow.
even from itself.
So how does that even work?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, how do you even
Yeah.
wrap your head around that?
Yeah, it is fascinating how that seemingly contradictory idea
Yeah,
actually plays out. It's not just theoretical knowledge.
right.
It's a practical lens for how you actually experience the world.
So it's not like a specific set of beliefs that you have to adopt.
It's not a dogma. Think of it as a tool
Okay.
to help you really understand the Four Noble Truths, not just intellectually, but experientially.
Okay, so like really living them out.
Yeah, and the text really emphasizes the function of right view is to lead to a sense of dispassion.
Dispassion.
Yeah,
Okay.
which ultimately paves the way to awakening.
To me, dispassion just, when I hear that word, it sounds a bit, I don't know,
Gleek.
bleak, like giving up on everything.
It's not about that.
Yeah.
Imagine like noticing the pull of craving for something,
Yeah.
like that extra slice of cake, for example,
Okay.
and not getting swept away by it.
Oh, okay.
That's the freedom that right view cultivates.
So you can see things as they are without kind of getting...
Yeah, without that added layer of like
Okay.
clinging or aversion.
Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
So it's not about suppressing desire. It's about changing our relationship.
precisely. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from clinging.
Right.
And the Wings to Awakening actually outlines 4 main types of clinging.
Oh, okay. What are those?
So there's clinging to sensuality,
Okay.
clinging to habits and routines,
Yeah.
clinging to views, and clinging to theories about the self.
So basically, like, we get attached to pleasurable sensations, comfortable routines, our own opinion,
Yes.
and even, like, who we think we are.
Exactly. And because everything is impermanent,
Right.
clinging to these things
Yeah.
sets us up for disappointment.
That makes sense. So if the pleasurable sensation fades or my routine gets disrupted or someone challenges my views, that's when I experience...
Then you suffer.
Yeah, suffering.
Yeah.
Okay, this reminds me of that story in the text about Anathapindika,
Oh, yeah.
the householder. He's so clever.
Yeah.
He basically dismantles all these different
Philosophical views?
philosophical stances using right view. It's like
Yeah.
he's doing like intellectual judo.
It is. It's a great example of right view in action.
Yeah, it's like he's not even...
He doesn't get caught up debating the content
Yeah.
of each view.
Right.
He uses right view to highlight the shared impermanence
Ah.
of all of them, making them not even worth clinging to.
So instead of trying to like win the argument, he's using right view to kind of...
Cut to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, to be like, look, clinging to any of these viewpoints is going to lead to suffering.
Exactly.
Yep.
He demonstrates that right view isn't about winning arguments. It's about developing that discerning awareness that sees the limitations inherent in any viewpoint.
Okay, so then how can we cultivate that kind of discerning awareness in our own lives?
Yeah.
Does the text give us any, like, practical guidance on how to do that?
It does. It connects right view to the 3 stages of what's called frames of reference meditation.
Okay, so 3 stages. This sounds kind of complicated already.
It's a practice that involves shifting your perspective on experience.
Okay. Can we break down each one of those stages and maybe talk about what it actually feels like to practice them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first stage involves training your attention
Okay.
on immediate experience,
Okay.
which means putting aside any thoughts and judgments about the past or future,
Oh, so it's like being present.
being present in the moment.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the second stage?
So the second stage builds on that present moment awareness,
Okay.
and you start to recognize the impermanence of all phenomena,
Oh, okay.
noticing how everything is arising and passing away, constantly in flux.
Right. So if everything's changing all the time, why even bother holding on to it so tightly?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and what about the third stage? What happens there?
This is where things get interesting.
Okay.
The third stage is about entering a perceptual mode of emptiness.
Emptiness.
Yeah. And now this doesn't mean things are literally empty.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that things lack inherent existence.
I'm getting a bit lost. Can you give me like an example? What does that emptiness feel like?
Sure. Imagine you're looking at a flower.
Okay.
You see its color, its shape, you can smell its fragrance.
Yeah.
But if you really examine it, can you pinpoint the exact essence of that flower? Separate from all those changing qualities?
No, I guess not. It's more like a...
It's a flow of sensations and perceptions.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what emptiness points to, the lack of a solid, independent self in anything, including ourselves.
Wow.
And this realization can be profoundly liberating.
Okay.
Because it frees us from clinging to fixed ideas about who we are or what things are.
So emptiness isn't about things being like void or meaningless.
No.
It's more about seeing their interconnectedness, like their dependence.
Yes, their dependence on conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that interconnectedness makes me think of like this idea in science called scale invariance.
Oh, yeah.
Where the same patterns repeat on different levels. Like, you know how the structure of an atom resembles the structure of a solar system.
Exactly. And the text also highlights this kind of interconnectedness.
Okay.
It explains how the principles that apply to your own personal suffering also apply to the vast cycles of existence.
So it's like kind of zooming out and seeing
Yeah.
that the same patterns are happening on a bigger level.
And the Wings to Awakening draws a parallel between the suffering we experience in our own lives
Yeah.
due to clinging
Okay.
and the cycle of transmigration.
Transmigration meaning like birth, death, and rebirth.
Exactly, the continuous cycle.
So just as like my own personal clinging causes suffering, this kind of clinging on a cosmic scale
Yeah.
to continued existence keeps us bound to this cycle of rebirth.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the way to break free from both of these forms of suffering is through cultivating
Right, you.
right view. It's like a universal key that unlocks the door to liberation.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So right view helps us see this bigger picture, the interconnectedness of everything, and ultimately leads to liberation from suffering.
That's a great way to put it.
This is getting pretty deep, I gotta say. But I'm really intrigued by this.
And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of right view.
Okay.
It acts as both the seed and the fruit
Seed and fruit.
of the path to awakening.
Okay, I'm not sure I get that.
We'll explain it.
Yeah, how can it be both?
Yeah, well, the text actually uses the analogy of seeds to explain this.
Okay.
It says, just as planting a neem tree seed, which is very bitter, or a bitter creeper seed, or a bitter melon seed,
Oh.
will inevitably produce bitter fruit.
Yeah.
Wrong views will inevitably lead to suffering.
So our views really do shape our experiences.
They do.
If we start with a distorted view,
Yeah.
we're going to end up...
It's going to lead to negative consequences.
Okay, that makes sense.
But on the flip side,
Okay.
if you plant a sugarcane seed, or a rice grain, or a grape seed, you know what to expect.
Sweet, delicious fruit.
Sweet, delicious fruit.
Right.
Similarly, right view leads to happiness and liberation.
So by cultivating right view,
Yeah.
we're basically planting the seeds for our own awakening.
Yes.
Okay.
You're nurturing the potential for wisdom,
Mm.
compassion, and freedom from suffering.
And this isn't just like a passive process, right? We have to actually put some effort.
It takes work.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey of learning, growing, and refining your understanding.
So it's not just listening to podcasts like this.
It's about integrating these teachings into your daily life.
Yeah, really living it out. Okay, speaking of refining our understanding,
Yeah.
could we maybe go back to the connection between right view and meditation?
Sure.
We talked about the 3 stages of frames of reference meditation, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear how those can help us actually cultivate right view in a practical way.
Yeah, the text highlights how mindfulness, concentration, and discernment play key roles in this process.
Okay, let's break those down. We already talked about mindfulness, that idea of being present in the moment without judgment.
Right.
So how does mindfulness connect to right view?
Mindfulness is like a mental microscope.
Okay.
It helps you observe the workings of your own mind
Mm.
and see how clinging and desire lead to suffering.
Ah, okay.
You can see the cause and effect
Yeah.
playing out right there in your own experience.
Okay, that makes sense. What about concentration?
Think of concentration as like building mental muscle.
Okay.
It helps you to stabilize your mind
Yeah.
and maintain this mindful awareness for longer periods.
Mm-hmm.
With practice, you'll find yourself less reactive
Right.
and more able to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
So it's like training your mind to stay focused,
Yes.
even when things get tough.
Exactly.
And then what about discernment? What role does that play?
Discernment is the ability to see the causal relationships at play in your experience.
Okay.
It's about recognizing what is skillful and unskillful, what leads to suffering and what leads to liberation.
So it's like using wisdom to make choices that lead to greater happiness and well-being.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that your actions have consequences not just for yourself, but for the world around you.
That makes me think about the responsibility that comes with right view.
Yes.
It's not just about personal liberation.
Right.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness with everything and everyone.
Exactly. And it's this recognition of interconnectedness
Okay.
that ultimately leads us back to the paradox of right view.
Oh, man. Okay, here we are again with this paradox. I gotta admit, I'm still kind of struggling with this idea of letting go of even right view.
Yeah.
It seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
If it's the path to awakening, why let go of it?
Right.
What happens then?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, cliffhanger.
We'll unpack this paradox and discover the profound implications of letting go,
Okay.
even of the most skillful of views.
I can't wait. Okay, so we're back and ready to dig into this whole letting go of right view thing.
Yes.
You were saying that it's actually like a crucial part of the Buddhist path.
It is.
But I'm having a little trouble wrapping my head around it. How can something that's so beneficial like right view
Yeah.
actually be an obstacle?
Well, it's like this. Right view is a tool,
Okay.
an incredibly useful lens for seeing the world more clearly and breaking free from suffering. But what happens if you become so attached to the tool itself
Yeah.
that you miss the very reality it's pointing to?
Oh, so it's like mistaking the map of the territory.
Yes. Right view is a guide, a means to an end.
Okay.
But it's not the end in itself.
Right.
The ultimate goal is to awaken to the true nature of reality, to directly experience liberation from suffering.
Right.
And clinging to even right view
Yeah.
can prevent you from fully realizing that liberation.
Ah, okay. I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
So it's not that right view is wrong or bad. It's more about recognizing its limitations.
Yeah, and not getting stuck there.
Right. Not getting attached.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond the need to grasp onto any concept,
Okay.
even helpful ones, and experiencing reality directly without the filters of our
Conceptual framework.
conceptual frameworks.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of those 3 stages of frames of reference meditation we were talking about.
Yes.
Especially that 3rd stage.
Yeah.
Where we enter into this mode of emptiness.
Yes. That's a powerful connection.
Yeah, where we let go of all concepts and just observe.
You let go of all concepts.
Yeah.
And you simply observe the arising and passing away of phenomena.
Right, without clinging.
Without grasping or clinging.
And so this letting go, this emptiness,
Yeah.
is that really where true liberation is found?
It is, but it's important to understand that this isn't a nihilistic emptiness,
Okay.
like a belief that nothing matters.
Right.
It's a fertile ground from which wisdom and compassion can blossom.
So it's not about erasing everything. It's about creating space for something new.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay. And, you know, we were talking earlier about how right view is both the seed and the fruit of the path.
Yeah.
I really like that analogy.
Well, the Wings to Awakening takes that analogy a step further.
Okay.
It compares wrong view to planting a seed that will inevitably produce bitter fruit,
Oh, like what kind of seed?
like a neem tree,
Okay.
a bitter creeper seed,
Yeah.
or a bitter melon seed.
So, like, the views that we hold really do shape our experiences.
They do.
If we're starting out with a distorted view,
Yes.
it's going to lead to...
It's going to lead to negative consequences.
Okay, so we have to be careful about what seeds we're planting.
But on the flip side, if you plant a sugarcane seed, a rice grain, a grape seed, you know what to expect.
Sweet, delicious fruit.
Sweet, delicious fruit.
Okay, yeah, much better.
And similarly, right view leads to happiness and liberation.
So by cultivating right view, we're planting those seeds
Yeah.
that lead to awakening and a flourishing life.
You're nurturing the potential for wisdom,
Okay.
compassion, and freedom from suffering.
This is making me think about the effort that's involved in cultivating right view.
Yes.
It's not passive, is it?
It does take work. It's a lifelong journey of learning, growing, and refining your understanding.
So it's not just about listening to podcasts like this or reading books, right?
It's about actively engaging with these teachings and integrating them into your daily life.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we actually integrate right view into our everyday experiences.
Well, remember those 3 stages of frames of reference meditation?
Yeah.
They offer a practical framework
Okay.
for cultivating right view.
But could we maybe like break it down even more? Like how do mindfulness, concentration, and discernment actually work together to help us develop right view?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mindfulness helps you see things as they truly are.
Okay.
The impermanence, the interconnectedness, the lack of a solid self in anything. It's like you become aware of the movie that's constantly playing in your mind
Yeah.
without getting lost in the plot.
Okay, so mindfulness is like seeing things clearly
Yes.
without judgment.
Exactly.
What about concentration?
Concentration stabilizes the mind, helping you to maintain that mindful awareness
Okay.
for longer periods.
Right.
Think of it as strengthening your attention muscle.
Yeah, like mental training.
Yes. With practice, you can become less reactive, more present, and better able to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
Okay, that makes sense. And discernment.
Discernment is the ability to see the causal relationships at play in your experience. It's about recognizing what is skillful and unskillful, what leads to suffering, and what leads to liberation.
So you start to see how clinging creates suffering
Yeah.
and letting go leads to freedom.
Exactly.
It's about using wisdom to make choices that lead to,
Greater happiness.
greater well-being.
Exactly.
Okay, and this really brings us back to the whole paradox of right view, right?
Yes, it does.
We keep circling back around to this idea of letting go.
Oh, yeah.
Letting go of clinging, letting go of fixed views, letting go of even right view itself.
It is a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah.
If it's the path to awakening, why let it go? What happens then?
That's the million-dollar question, and that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Oh, Matt, another cliffhanger.
We'll unpack this paradox and discover the profound implications of letting go, even of the most skillful views.
Okay, so here we are at the final part of our right view deep dive.
Yes.
And we've been through a lot, you know.
We have.
We talked about the 4 noble truths, the 3 stages of meditation,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like we kind of left off on a cliffhanger.
Yes, we were about to unpack that paradox
Yeah, the whole letting go of even right view.
of even right view.
I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around that. I get that clinging to any view, even a skillful one,
Yeah.
can be an obstacle. But if right view is supposed to be the path to awakening,
Yeah.
then what happens when we let go of it? What's on the other side?
That's a great question. It's like you've been using a raft to cross a river,
Okay.
and you've reached the other shore.
Yeah.
Do you keep clinging to the raft?
No, you don't need it anymore.
Exactly.
It got you where you needed to go.
Right. You use the raft to get where you need to go,
Yeah,
but once you're there, it's time to step off and continue the journey.
right.
Clinging to the raft would only weigh you down
Yeah, it would
and prevent you from moving forward.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So letting go of right view isn't about saying it's wrong.
No.
It's just recognizing that it was a tool.
It was a stepping stone.
Yeah, and like any tool, it served its purpose.
It helped you to see the world more clearly.
Right.
It helped you to loosen the grip of clinging,
Hmm.
break free from suffering.
Yeah, but ultimately we're meant to move beyond that.
Yes, transcend the tool itself.
Just like with the 3rd stage of frames of reference meditation, right?
There you go.
We enter that state of emptiness.
Yes.
Where we let go of all concepts.
Not to views, not to concepts.
Not even to the idea of a self.
Not even the idea of a separate self.
And so that's where we find true liberation.
Yes. But it's important to understand this emptiness is not a void or a nothingness.
Right. We talked about that.
It's a state of pure potentiality,
Okay.
a fertile ground.
So it's not about erasing everything. It's about creating space for something new to emerge.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
I'm seeing this less as a contradiction and more as a progression.
Mm.
Like we start with right view as our guide.
Right.
It shows us how things really are, shows us the path,
Mm.
but eventually we don't need the guide anymore.
Right. You've learned to walk on your own.
Yeah, and we can directly experience liberation.
Exactly.
Okay, it's like learning to ride a bike.
Yes. At first, you need the training wheels.
Right, for support, but eventually you develop the balance and the confidence to ride freely on your own.
I love that analogy.
So, right view is like training wheels for the mind.
Yeah, it helps us develop those skills we need.
And just like those training wheels are meant to be removed,
Yeah.
Right View is meant to be transcended.
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
It really has.
I feel like we've been on a journey.
We have.
We started with right view and how it connects with the Four Noble Truths.
Right.
Then those 3 stages of meditation and that whole paradox of letting go.
The seed and the fruit.
Yeah.
The seed and the fruit.
And it's all about realizing true liberation.
Liberation from suffering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with something to think about.
Okay.
If even right view is meant to be let go of, what does that say about the nature of truth and understanding?
That is the question.
It's like truth isn't some fixed thing, right? It's a process of discovery.
Always evolving.
Yeah.
Always unfolding.
Wow, so much to ponder. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of right view.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, please keep exploring these ideas.
Yeah, check out The Wings to Awakening
Yeah, read the text.
and see what you discover.
You never know what kind of amazing insights you might find.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Today's